Alright, hello YouTube, it's Greg, and today I am going to be talking about what I read throughout the year and what I plan to read next year. So to start off with the professors, and frankly this book wasn't interesting. It was talking about how to get into academia, right? But to start off with, it was very, very, very generic advice, and it just was really emphasizing the hustle culture of academia. If you don't know, academia is pretty, there's quite a lot of overlap with hustle culture. Um, and that's fine. I mean, that's fine. The issue was that it just kept on emphasizing hustle culture. It did not talk about. She kept on. I don't want to say it was an excuse, but it kind of felt like that. She was constantly talking about how you have to know your field, and she wasn't giving any specific examples for anything she was giving advice for. And it felt. I don't want to say insincere, but kind of like a series of blog posts that's stapled together. And I actually did once I was writing an SOP for one of my applications, and I wanted to look into this book and see its advice on how to write an SOP, statement of purpose, and I did find the exact same chapter online. And it was like I paid for a series of blog posts. On the bright side, I did only pay $4 for it, so use stuff. So I guess I can give you an example of what I would like to see. In it, she doesn't talk about tenure track packages at all. So what's a tenure track package? When you first apply for a professorship, right, you do not immediately start off a with like the permanent job, right? You have a professorship, and then you apply for tenure, right? And typically universities require 2 tenure track packages. So like once every 3 to 5 years, uh, you have this whole application package, and you submit that to the department that you're working in, and everyone goes around voting on it. And if they like you, you stay in, right? Basically, if they think that you're going to do good research, if you're going to think you really contribute to the university, then you do this a second time. And she doesn't really talk about tenure track packages, again, saying that you have to know your field. But I'll give you an example. So I work in 2 different fields. I work in chemistry and environmental science. Well, I do research in them. So I'm in 2 labs at once as an undergrad, and I know about both sides. So currently, there's always a new professor in academia. That's mainly because you always want to have a consistent system. So like you're always gonna have one professor retiring and one professor in. That way, and like every professor, at least environmental science. I don't know about in my environmental science department. Every professor will be every position eventually. And so so basically what this allows for is that you always have someone who has more experience than you, and you always have a backup, right? Someone who can immediately take over if something goes wrong. And there's always someone you could reference to who has more experience. It's supposed to be a well-oiled machine, right? In environmental science, you will have, like, when you're applying for tenure track and you're giving your packages, you will have someone higher up who already has tenure, is like ready more experience and has been in this university for a long time. They will tell you what your package should include. Do you need to focus more on research? Do you need to focus more on teaching? Oh, they don't want either of that and they want more hands-on experience and like outreach? Do that instead. Like they give practical advice on how to get tenure. Like it's a very friendly community, right? In the chemistry department I'm in, it's kind of a free for all. Um, I know someone who got tenure without having a single grad student. I mean, quite literally, she did not do any research for like the first 3 years. So her first tenure track package had zero research on it. She did eventually get tenure track. Um, but there's I know there's obviously a new professor in, and I don't think he's getting any advice either. I'm not gonna lie. So kind of that's kind of what I was hoping for in this book. More specific examples showing how you have to know your field and be in your field, um, to really do your job properly, to actually get your PhD and turn that into a job. You know, so that's what I was really hoping for in this book. Um, but no, no, it wasn't there. It's fine. It's generic. I mean, I am kinda first generation student, not really. Um, so I found some of it helpful. Um, but I think if you already have a father or mother who's has a PhD, or like an uncle, you know, you're close with, um, yeah, no, this is nothing. How Not to Die Alone. If you know anything about me, this is probably one of my bigger fears in life. Alrighty, so where to even start with this? Um, it's just it's about how to date and how to find love and how to do love. Not like sex, but like, you know, romantic. Um, I grew up in a very isolated community. Um, so I do not understand American romance. Right? I do not understand romance in general. Right? Like I do not understand how dating, love, and any of all that stuff is done. So in that regard, it was quite insightful for me to read that in a book and then explained, you know? So that was quite nice from like a sociology perspective, you know, that was kind of cool. Um, it also convinced me that I kind of don't want to date anyone. I don't mind dying alone. Yeah, romance is not for me. Um, what I will say about this book, it's pretty good. I do recommend it. Um, what I will say about this book is that has two toothbrushes, uh, on the front separated, and in the back they're together cuddling. That's adorable. But yeah, it's a good book. I highly recommend if you're looking for love, to understand love, how to do love. Yeah, good book. 5 out of 5. I do recommend. 84 Sharing Crossing Road and The Duchess of Bloomsbury Street by Helene Hanif. I have never heard anyone pronounce it consistently, so Hanif. Crossing Roads by Helene Hanif is about a person who admires English literature and their culture, and she reaches out to an English bookstore and she asks if they have these books, and it's about two-way communication between the two. It was pretty good, actually. She has a very unique and interesting take on writing. Um, Normally, right, with modern writers, I'm thinking Brandon Sanderson, Wheel of Time, you know, they start off with the world building, and like 90% of it is like in the beginning, just world building, and then you get to know the characters a little bit more and the plot, and they thicken, and that's why you're reading it now. You know, you're not reading about the world building, you are reading about the characters and plot eventually, right? In this story, it's actually quite the opposite. She is very charismatic and you're instantly drawn into her personality. And then she starts explaining why she loves England so much, you know, the world building, which is like a really interesting take on literature. I found it extremely refreshing. I liked it. Her prose is also great. She has a lot of fun lines. Like in this one, so many tabs. All the pink ones are purplish are things I found funny. There should be 50 tabs or 51 tabs because uh, I went. Well, I guess 49. I went through all of them, and each one of these are 50. So there's 49 funny lines in this that just had me cackling. It was great. Has a very bright personality, and it shines through the pages. She has a very interesting take on writing, which I find incredibly refreshing. Um, yeah, that was Helene Hanef. I probably won't be reading her until like another few years because like her writing is like so intoxicating. Like it is. Oh my gosh, guys. I have to take a break. Like I need to air out. Like oof. She's great. But my god, is it addicting. It is. Strange Beast of China. Oh my god. I can make a whole other video on this. So I will. um Prista Bones, I'm surprised I did not donate already because this was absolute trash. I initially picked this up because someone told me it was, you know, morally great characters. So obviously the first thing our main protagonist does is save a damsel in distress. Obviously. Next. He's a certified Jesus good boy. Tales of Moonlight and Ghost. Oh no. Tales of Moonlight and Rain. My bad. It's a ghost story. That's why. It's a series of ghost stories written by Inari, I think. Akinari. Ueda Akinari. And someone already wrote down how to pronounce it. Ueda Akinari. Yeah. Um, this one, note to have, is because it was really interesting. I initially picked this up because, well, there's no cover, so I guess in editing, I'll put the cover here of what I thought the cover would look like. I thought it was gorgeous. Initially, I picked it up because I heard these stories are inspired by Chinese mythology. It's a Japanese take on some Chinese myth, and it wasn't the Chinese myths I'm like particularly interested in. It's a little bit more. I don't want to say modern, but a bit more recent. I'm interested in Chinese mythology from Han Dynasty, so like really really early Chinese mythology. So it's a bit more modern, but this one was good. Also, gosh, you know, I used to read. I still read children's books, but not nearly as much because, you know, I'm in a university now, so like I don't have access to it. But like, man, we really need to bring back picture books. Like, man, they're so good. Like, this is so good, and the whole book is like this. And it's like, it's not so many, but like, there's like probably like 10. But like, look at this art, man. It's gorgeous. I love it. It's great. Another painting. Like, my gosh, guys, bring back picture books. Like, what on earth are we doing with our lives? Like, seriously. uh, we need more picture books. Anyways, this one is a series of short stories. So it was interesting to read them. They like the introduction I really liked. I have some introduction beefs with some introductions this year. We'll talk about that later. But the introduction was really well written, and it was talking about how really a lot of the poetry and elegance is in the actual language. So like it's not captured by translation, which, you know, I'm used to. I mean, I'm reading Chinese stuff translated to English. Like, I'm used to losing all the elegance of a language, you know. And it's also the main reason why I want to learn Chinese now. So it talks about that, but honestly, it's really well translated. The prose is very nice and subtle, and it's just a really gorgeous prose. The plot and the characters were not like extremely special, but this book was like really nice to read. It was very pleasant, a very nice, relaxing journey to read. So yeah, I mean, it's not horror. It's like ghost, you know. So I don't want to say it's cozy fantasy, not at all. Especially since cozy fantasy is definitely a more Western thing. At least I think so. It's definitely more modern, right? Um, it's it's definitely not cozy fantasy, but it's not definitely not horror. It's just ghost tales. Uh, Tales of Moonlight and Rain, a really classy and elegant title for a really classy and elegant book. Okay, so, oh boy, I can make a whole video on this. I guess I should tell you why I picked this up in the first place. I am extremely interested in the evolution of Chinese mythology and myths. One of my favorite, you know, topics is ghost detective novels. You know, and again, I said I could make a whole video on this book, and so I probably will. Suffice to say, I am looking for different myths now. I found what I was looking for, to say the very least. So, whole other video. Okay, next. Okay, so I'm just gonna pull out the first of the book. Yes, the summer Hikaru died. Oh my god, guys. I know, obviously I know how to access the legal versions. But like man, I was touched by this story. I just had to. It was an impulsive buy to buy all six. It's just if you don't know, it's been widely popular. It's a story about a boy named Hikaru, and he goes up to the mountains to continue a family legacy ritual of sorts, and he dies. And then an eldritch abomination takes over his identity, and it's the story from there on out. And wow, this is good. It talks about isolation. It talks about unrelented feelings. It talks about grief. It talks about what it means to be human, what it means to be a monster. It's just like it touches like so many themes I personally really love reading about. It's just flat out gorgeous. I have no other words for it. Um, I highly recommend it. You have to read it for yourself. It's really gorgeous. The one critique I would have about the summer Hikaru died is that the beats are a little bit too I don't want to say melodramatic. Monotone might be a better word. Um, the tones are really one of the same for in terms of plot, and it's much more about the characters having time to react to the plot rather than fully experiencing an event and living with that event. Um, like I don't know how else to word it. Like there's a very set amount of time for the characters after experiencing something very plot related. There's a very limited set of time for them to actually react to it before the next plot beat comes on and cuts off the continuing emotions. It doesn't feel continuous. It feels you very much feel the presence of the author's hand moving the plot along forward, and it's kind of that's like my only like nitpick with it. But like that's so stereotypical for Western novels, and like I see no one complaining about it. But like I said, it's really good. That's like my only nitpick. Um, it's it's amazing. You have to read it. I do have a recommendation. If you did like Summer the Hikaru Died, I am almost 100% positive the author is inspired by Parasite. So I'll put a cover of that there, and my favorite scene from Parasite there. Um, but it also very much struggles about what is human and what is a monster. And it's like that's also like extremely gorgeous manga. If you already read Hikaru Summer Died, the Summer Hikaru Died, you have to read Parasite. A Helper. I wanted to recommend you Helper, mainly because the art is really special in Helper, and wow, oh boy, Helper is also about what it means to live and what it means to die, right? It's a story about someone who goes to the afterlife and what does it mean to die, right? Like it's definitely more action heavy rather than theme heavy. Like I would say Hikaru's story is much more about, themes and experience, right? So Helper is a lot more superhero-ish, I guess. A lot more action heavy, a lot more action forward. So you don't really get themes of humanity until much later on. Uh, but yeah, Helper, the line art, extremely special. And oh my god, I guess I'll put my favorite scene from The Helper here. And also, while I'm at it, my favorite scene from Hikaru here. Because, wow, this is a special story, man. Very special story. So, last spring, I took Calc 3. And I thought, passing with a C, I deserve a little treat. So I bought myself a Penguin Classic. Edgar Allan Poe. Yeah. I hated this book. Oh my gosh, no, you do not deserve a spot there. Goodbye. I hated this. Oh, I absolutely hated this. I got this in May. It's currently December. Like, Christmas is literally in, like, what, 4 days? Yeah, 4 days. It's like... I hated this. I hated Edgar Allan Poe. Normally, I would say Penguin classics are classics for onto themselves. Like whenever I want to read like a really old book, for example, I want to read some sutras next year. Um, so I first thing I do is I go to Penguin Classics and look if they have any annotated sutras. Um, I think they had the Red Pine Sutra, which is a combination of three sutras, translated by Pines. So I'll probably be getting that. It was only like $15. I don't know what my budget looks like yet. Um, so I treated myself. I got this Edgar Allan Poe. It was like $20. Not worth a damn penny. So, let's start off with the introduction. My god. The author, the introduction, literally thinks he's God. I don't know how else to describe it to you. I had never felt like there was such an obnoxious human to ever exist. Like, oh my god, these academics are writing him to death. Like, oh my god, he does not have a single ounce of humanity according to this introduction. It was awful. Oh my god, like, I had never felt like I was looking into a cult before. Like, oh my god, what the hell is this? I absolutely hated this. Like, I read stories because of their humanity. Like, what the fuck? I don't want to read about gods or like who is your god. I don't care about that. I legit like you legit think he would be talking about God here. Like, what is this? And it was just awful. I hated it. I absolutely hated the introduction. But you know, I paid $20 for this. You know what? Like, if it's a bad introduction, so be it. And oh my god, it gets worse! It gets worse! Edgar Allan Poe. They make him seem like he thinks of himself as a god. Like, like, is this a Dark Academia cult? Like, oh my god, like, seriously, this is what I'm looking into right now. The Dark Academia cult. Edgar Allan Poe. I don't like it. This is terrible. It's like, they legit chose all the stories that removed every single ounce of humanity. Like, every single ounce. Not, like, I had never met someone who thinks, like, it's like talking to someone who loves their own voice. Like, oh my god, Edgar Allan Poe loves his own writing so much. It's exhausting. Oh my god, I have not finished it. I am forcing myself to read this shit. It is... I spent $20 on this, and I will not be finished this until I die. This is like actual trash. I'm sorry, I hated every moment of this. I hated it. Oh my god, the worst poem is the bells. The bells, the bells, the bells! Ugh! Shut up. Like, legit. He literally thinks he's God. I have no other way to describe it. He thinks he's God. And you know what's worse? I was watching another YouTuber, and she was talking about Edgar Allan Poe also. I think it was this YouTuber. I have no idea. I don't recall. And she was talking about loneliness. Like how Edgar Allan Poe wrote a poem on loneliness. It was such a gorgeous poem. Why on earth you chose... For fuck's sake, you choose El Dorado over that? Like, I'm sorry, El Dorado was fine, but that's it. Fine. It's nothing special. And it's a short poem too. It's an extra page. Why on earth are they so desperate to strip all of his humanity? I kid you not. There is not an ounce of humanity of Poe in this book whatsoever. It's awful. I hated it. Ugh. I absolutely hated it. What a disappointment. You know what's worse too? I'm really interested in Alger and I read like Alger like Edgar Allan Poe is like the classic Alger guy. And it's just fucking basic ghost stories, man. I don't know what else to tell you. It's like, oh my god, it's so obnoxious. Ugh, like, please. Ugh. Credit where credit is due. There is, I think, one poem I like. I think it's called like Nevermore. I'm looking for it now. It's The Raven. That was a fine poem. It was nothing special. I just like how the raven constantly repeats nevermore, nevermore, nevermore. I just like the idea of nevermore, because one of my favorite children's books, I don't have it on me, it's in storage, is Everlost. Um, it's a story about two kids who die in a car accident and their journey to the afterlife. I absolutely love it. It's great. I still reread it all the time. It is a wonderful book. I absolutely love it. Um, and so it like anything that's like Everlost, you know, I got it at a Scholastic book fair. It's all ripped up. It's good. I love it. Um, so whenever it says Everlost and like Nevermore, I'm a sucker. So that's why the curse says Nevermore. I like it. Um, and so I also kind of like, for the stupidest reason. Um, let's see. Oh, it's literally the cover. The Fall of the House of Usher. So I guess I should point out the irony first and foremost. Usher means joy in Hebrew. It's kind of like bliss, not bliss, but happiness, joy. Um. So if you don't know, Fall of House of Usher is about a man named Usher. He's the last heir to his family fortune, old wealth. Um. And he is overstimulated by every single one of his senses. So like basically, he is sensitive to sight, sound, smell, everything. He's overpowered by everything. And I kind of relate to this because if you don't know, I have sensitive hearing. I can literally hear, like when I walk by a bush, like in the middle of summer, and I hear crickets, I can tell you the number of crickets and I can point you where they are. Like, I can hear kids playing down the block. I can hear the basketballs. It's infuriating. Um, I can literally hear people, because right, like now I'm in a 4-year state college, so like I'm in massive classrooms. I could literally hear people talking in the back. Like I'm sitting in the front, and like 15 rows back, I hear people talking over the professor with a microphone. You know what I mean? Like, I have really sensitive hearing. Like it's really painful. It's painful. I recently heard there's therapy for sensitive hearing. So I'm gonna look into that this summer. So like that's pretty much the only representation I had so far. Like feeling like seeing myself, like seeing someone else who just lies in bed all day because everything is just overstimulating him. It's like, finally some representation. Like finally, like I am also sensitive to touch. I hate being touched. Um, I literally, I literally feel my clothing rub against my skin and it's painful. I got used to it because you grow up with this. Unlike hearing when unlike my hearing, it's like it's getting worse as I age, which is like, oh no. It's like, oh no. Like when I was a kid, probably because I was around other screaming kids, like I could handle it better. Like I was still throwing tantrums like every other day, but like, wow. Wow, it's only getting worse, man. It's not looking good. Um, so yeah, finally some representation. Ay, ay, ay. That's about the only good thing about it. Nevermore, because I like Everlost. And finally, some fucking representation about sensitive hearing. My god, man. I also, at the same time, picked up The King in Yellow, another Eldritch Horror classic. This is annotated by the Horrors Writer Association, Haunted Libraries of Horror Classics. So I could not find this on, Penguin Classics. So, I just picked it up. Again, to treat myself passing Calc 3 with a C+. Yeah, after failing it the first time. So where to start with this? It was very boring, but I loved it. Unlike Edgar Allan Poe, Robert Chambers does not think he's God. Yeah, let's put him up here. He deserves it. He deserves it. Robert Chambers does not think he's God. Robert Chambers, for most of his career, wrote romanticy stuff, and it shows. There isn't a whole lot of Eldritch Horror stuff in here. These are its completed works of, like, you know, The King of Yellow. It's like a series of short stories, kind of merged together. I don't know if we're supposed to have, like, a new perspective at the end, because I certainly didn't. I don't see how any of these stories are interconnected, like, at all. Only the first one, like, directly has to deal with the King in Yellow and, like, the Eldritch Horror of it. The rest of it is definitely, could be more interpreted as romantasy more than anything else. That's fine. I just wish there was more Eldritch Horror in it, you know? King in Yellow is very basic in comparison. You know, like, while Edgar Allan Poe is writing to make himself a god, Robert Chambers is clearly writing to make a paycheck, and it's good. I like it. Main reason why I liked it so much, even though, like, the stories are fine, I do recommend it if you happen to have a spare time and it's in the library or in, like, a mini library or something like that, free library. Just pick it up. It's fine. The main reason why I really liked it so much is because I could tell which guidebook you used to write it. Because I use it for all my academic writing. And it's E.B. White's Elements of Style. So E.B. White is Elements of Style. The main thesis of this book is clarity trumps all. So you always try to don't use words that could easily be confused with one another's, like that. He has a whole list of them in the back. He talks about very basic grammar, and why you should follow these grammar rules instead of these ones, so that way you have a much more simpler structure. And so I can immediately tell Robert Chambers used E.B. White to write all his stories. I could tell immediately. The main reason why I like E.B. White, well, Robert Chambers, is because he introduces a very unique perspective of E.B. White. So, I also write fan fiction about Unordinary. And one issue I have with Unordinary, well, not Unordinary, with my own writing style, is that I follow E.B. White to a T. So it gets very boring very quickly. And I get tired of my own writing, so I don't write as much. Like this year I only wrote one chapter, because I'm starting to hate my own writing. And so what King in Yellow does, he kind of like breaks one of E.B. White's rules, which is that you always stay on topic, right? And what Robert Chamber does is that middle of the paragraph, he kind of twists it. He kind of twists the topic, and so suddenly you're reading something that could easily lull you into a sleep, and then suddenly you're like draw back right in, and like, you know, so I thought that was like really interesting to read that and like to experience that firsthand. You know, like it was a really interesting and practical take on something that is normally so strict and stiff. The King in Yellow basically showed me a new style of writing, or like a twist on a style of writing I'm already adapted to, and I greatly appreciate it for what it is. You know, like that was super interesting to read and experience firsthand. So if you're also interested in writing, I have to recommend Aspects of the Novel by E.M. Forster. This is a professor from Oxford talking about how to structure a story, like all the guidelines, and like skeleton, like the bones, about writing a story. So that's just one recommendation. I didn't read it this year. Maybe I'll reread it next year. Who knows? And so we go from Edgar Allan Poe, who thought he was God, to King in Yellow, who's clearly writing for the paycheck. And then finally, I read this a while ago, but now we are going to talk about Ryunosuke Akutagawa. The man... I have so many complicated feelings about Ryunosuke Akutagawa, man. Like, these are not his completed works. I know that there's at least, like, 3 other stories out there. Like, one novel-ish length story, part 2 to another short story in here, and I think a third one. I'm not sure. I couldn't find confirmation of that, so So my feelings towards Akutagawa are quite complicated. I could make a whole separate video on Hell's Screen, so I probably will. But again, that's another video for another time. So that's officially 3 videos for another time. Ryunosuke Akutagawa, Strange Shows of Low Tide, and Strange Beast of China. Alright, and to top it off, things that I will be reading later this year, hopefully. I want to get into Buddhism. So I'm going to read the Red Pines Classics, which is a combination of 3 sutras. And I'm also going to be reading the Lotus Sutra. What else? I also recently was sorting through all my files because I have like a million textbooks I downloaded and it was taking up way too much space, so I deleted all the ones that were repeats because I'm interested in the same topics. Wasted like a good 12 hours sorting through all my files, all my textbooks. So yeah, I found one textbook that I am... okay. This is one of my favorite literatures, a collection of literature ever. One of my favorites, The Sounds of the South. It's translated by David Hawkes and annotated by him. And in it, he references an obscure textbook. It's like about the cults and religions of early Han Dynasty Chinese culture. And it's like he references it. And I've been looking for it forever. And it's like, I gave up at one point. It was in my files. I actually found it. And it's like, I was so excited when I read that. And it's like, okay, now I have to read this. Like, obviously. I was so excited when I found that. It's like, damn. I was about to go, because originally this is in Ireland. And so, David Hawkes is in Ireland, I think. And so, I know he donated his personal library to, a library in Ireland, I think. So I was like, if I can't find it, I have to go to Ireland. So it's like, wow, I had it. I had it all along through my files. So that's something I'm reading this year for sure. Oh, so when I was also sorting through my files, I also decided to sort through my bookmarks, because my bookmarks are just a series of things that I think are really useful. So I do a bunch of organic chemistry. So I have a whole bunch of websites, just bookmarks about named organic reactions, new organic reactions, mechanisms explained. So I just have all these bookmarks. I also have databases bookmarks because I do a bit of data science. So I decided, you know what? I'll just put it in one giant Excel spreadsheet, the name of the database, a brief description, and a link. Just put that on Excel, have it for reference whenever I need something, very specific. So I was sorting through my bookmarks, and apparently there's this book series called The Black Company, and I think I might be interested in it. I definitely bookmarked it at some point. It looked interesting. I did not read it because I probably purposely wanted myself to forget it because I was just that interested in it, and purposely forget everything I read on that Wikipedia page, and then buy myself the books at some point. So I'm probably gonna also be reading The Black Company at some point. No idea what it's about. I have no idea where I can find it. Let's see what else. The Odyssey, and that's because I recently wrote an essay about the South Chinese Sea, and in one of these papers I was reading for this paper I was writing for my lit class, it references how China doesn't have its own strong naval base, and they don't have a history of exploring the sea. And once they pointed that out, I was like, that's true. And they could directly compare it to how we, in Western culture, how Americans inherited Roman and Greek culture. We have Homer's Odyssey, so it's Chinese people in comparison, they are always introspective. They're always exploring their mountains and lakes and rivers and streams. They're it's a lot more introspection rather than explorative. Like, you know, in American culture, we have destiny manifestation. You know, where we just killed millions and millions of people, um, for no good reason at all, other than we wanted to look outward. You know, in comparison, Chinese culture is all about looking inward. At least in my opinion, right? Very introspective. So they kind of point out you don't have this sea exploration in Chinese culture and mythology, and it's like once I thought about it, I was like, yeah, that's true. And so now I'm curious to see what, like, as a Westerner, what I have, you know, like, thought to see that I have. What is that? Like, I heard it so many times, and like, you know, I never read it in high school because, you know, and like, you know, at the point of high school, like, I had such a strong distaste for the classics. Like, I never wanted to read them ever again. I decided to read Outlaws on the Marsh, one, because it's shorter and it's not like a series of 12 volumes when translated into English. So, you know, like, that cancels out Journey of the West, even though I would love to read Journey of the West. Um, A Dream of the Red Mansion is also extremely long and also doesn't really seem like my style. Um, so, like, Outlaws on the Marsh seems something I would like, even though I'm not real. It seems to be, like, real history, which I'm not normally interested in. Um, but, you know, I want to read more Chinese classics, so I'll read Outlaws on the Marsh. It depends on my budget more than anything else what I'll be reading next year. Because recently, yeah, I haven't gotten the mail yet. But recently in Hong Kong, they had this Chinese inspired, Lunar New Year inspired um, Adidas jacket, and so like it has Tang Dynasty style buttons on it. Like, I'll just show a picture here, and I order it. It was like $150, but I think it looks so cool. I would love it. Yeah, I don't. I'll talk about this more in my Strange Tales of Lao Cai video. But I want to read about mythology throughout the dynasties, and you know, I kind of started from the tail beginning, and now I'm at the tail end. You know, and now I'm reading like modern stuff, so it's not really like, you know, folklore is mythology stuff. You know, so I now I'm gonna like steadily break it up and read mythology throughout the dynasties. You know, so like it'd be really cool if I get this jacket and like, you know, I start reading Tang Dynasty stuff. That'd be cool. I don't usually like Tang Dynasty poetry though. So that's kind of like, you know, yeah. To be fair, like Han Dynasty poetry is just like perfect. It's like legit the best poetry I've ever read in my life. You know, like, okay. Anyways, bye. It's a story about a boy who goes into the mountains to continue a family blah, 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 blah.